Okay, ladies, you have now made your 4 sub-blocks, all with your same matching fabrics. What I want to point out to you when we're talking about the fabrics is I tried to pick out of my jelly roll print pieces something that would go together that wasn't real wild and crazy. Because sometimes in these jelly rolls, you get wild stars, you get stripes, and sometimes if you put the stars and the stripes together, it about makes your eyes spin trying to put your block together. So when you're going through and you're picking out of your piles on your 4.5 and 6.5 pieces in your little 2.5, you can sort through until you find something that you think is going to go together nicely and not cross your eyes. So, okay, now we're going to take these and we're going to lay these out to make our large block. It's exciting! Watch. Okay, that one's going to go this way with our blue here. We're going to take this one and put it that way. We're going to take this one and put it this way, maybe. And we're going to take this one and put it that way. And we have a star. Is that slick or what? I told you when I gave you the cutting instructions that it was going to be a pain in the patoot to cut all those pieces, but that this block was really cool. And I still think that this turns into a really cool star block. Now that we have these together or have them laid out, we're going to join these together now just as they sit to make one large block. Okay, I'm going to take this one and slide him over here. And I call him a him because sometimes they're difficult. And to me, that's got to be male. Okay, remember which side of this it is that you want to sew together when you're fiddling around and trying to get it all lined up. Okay, the one thing that you have to watch, okay, this is how our block's going together over here. Where our snowball is, you have a snowball on the other side. And you want to make sure when you're putting these together that your snowballs are lining up, because if they're not and this doesn't line up, you're going to have a wonky intersection on your star points, okay? So I kind of roll this back and see that I'm pretty close there. And also over here there's a seam. Well, look at that. I'm really not on my seam, are I? All right, so let's scoot that just a hair. Let me scoot that down. Let me pull it down a bit, okay? And we're pretty good right there where my thumb is over here. So that is where we're going to sew this together. I'm going to keep my fingers on this to try to keep it where I want it. I'm trying to straighten this out and line everything up as best as I can. I am going to tell you that if it ends up being a little bit on, it doesn't line up 100%, life will not end, because when you put these together, big picture, you're not going to see that maybe you got a little bit of an eighth or whatever sticking down out of the bottom or out to the side. Or some of these, I put these together and thought, oh, these are going to be pretty awful, but they turned out pretty good. So I'm pretty sure this is the side I'm supposed to be sewing on. If it's not, we'll be ripping this out, because as I'm yapping, I'm not paying attention, and I'm turning this around, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. And yes, if this doesn't come out to suit me, I got something sticking up underneath there. If this doesn't come out to suit me and my points are very far off, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm ripping it out. Now, that's totally up to you. it depends on what your OCD's like, and you say, oh, can't stand that. And
okay, moment of truth.
yeah, we'll see. Is that pretty doggone good or what? By golly. So there's our first half is done. All right, and we're pretty good there. Now if you look down here, look, I'm a bit off on these two seams here. But when we hook this together, it'll all come out in the wash, I hope. Okay, now we're going to put these two together, same way. And sew this side. So I want to get this straightened around a bit here. And the interesting thing is this time your point is down here. Okay, let's see. And that is not good at all, is it? All right, let's see. Here's my seam. So my seam there is pretty good, and I can roll that down, and that's pretty cool there. So what is my deal here? What do I need to adjust? Okay, just by that little bit of an action and fixing that, getting that seam to match. This one's not doing too bad here. I hope my favorite saying is close enough for government work. So I worked for the government for about 40 years, so I honestly can say that. All right. Like I said, I'm still trying to keep my fingers on and keep this point from going anywhere and not moving around, because I think I've got it at a fairly decent spot. And then, come on, stinker. I need one of those thingies.
Stylus.
Yeah, one of those pointer thingies. All right, let's see what the second one's going to look like. Am I going to have to tear that one out? Because I have torn a lot of these out. Oh, well, you know what? It is a hair. See that little hair? I am not moving it for that little hair.
I would not either.
Other ones I have because they were up here. And it's like, okay, can't do it, can't do it.
When it's noticeable, yes.
Yeah, when it's noticeable. Now, I am going to, before I put these two together in the middle, I'm going to go press this out flat so that I am going to go press this out flat because we're going to join these two together. And what we have to make sure this time is that our seam in the middle matches, that our points over here are going to match like these did, or maybe even a little better than that one, and then our point over here, that they're going to match, so that we have pretty nice looking star points on all four edges. So we're going to go press this. I'm going to take it to the ironing board along with my pins, and I'm going to show you the wild way that I put this together. So, alrighty, let's go. Okay. Alrighty. I want this good.
And do you have steam in your iron? I forgot to ask you that.
I always have steam in this iron.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
People will ask.
So yeah, some people never use steam. Some people do. I always have. I know they say you're not supposed to or whatever. Okay. Now we're all flat. All right. So this is the convoluted way that I do it to get my stuff to match. Okay, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to bring it up here. As you notice, if you look at this from the back side, it's wonky, but it'll work out. Life is good. It'll work out. Okay, so never put pins in your mouth. I will put my seam down and I just roll it back until I get it. Okay, now you notice this was the one that was shorter than the other. And then I'm going to pin that down right at the seam. Now, okay.
So you pinned the seam allowance.
I pinned the seam down. I'm going to pin this in 3 places.
Okay. Just so they can see. Okay.
Yeah, and then here's my corners that are going to meet. So I'm going to try this way. Okay. I have a seam here. See this seam? I'm going to try to line that up as best I can and make sure that those look good. But what's going to match on this is here. Okay? But if you can get this placed at about the right spot, it makes life easier up here. So I am going to pull this back and see where my corners are meeting, because right here's my seam line. So if I think I need to slide this up just a hair, this is the way I do it. There's probably a better way, and you know, when Misty or Jenny do this, they nest seams, and I don't nest well. So this is my own convoluted way of making sure I've pinned at that point. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. I'm going to see where my seam is over here and try to get that lined up a little bit. And then I'm going to flip it back up, and I want to roll back my corners just to see. Well, I can't even find the other one, so that's up too high. Needs to come down a bit. Okay, that's much better. That looks much better. You just pull it back and adjust it. Hopefully that'll suit me. I guess we'll see when I sew. Okay, so I've pinned those down, and that's all the pinning I'm going to do before I sew these two together. That'll bother me. Sorry.
Hey, as Lisa was talking earlier about matching seams so the points would come out, we're talking about this intersection right here. This is just the way I do it. It's an alternative method. You do whatever works best for you. This is called nesting your seams. So what that means, if you've never done it before, and you're putting the 2 pieces together, you've got 1 seam allowance, you're going to put that way, and on the matching side, you're going to put that seam allowance going the opposite direction. So when you put them together, they will nest, and you'll be able to feel when the thickness is the same all the way through and that they have nested together. And then you're going to take a pin and you're going to go in 1 seam allowance and come out the other side of the seam allowance, and you're going to sew right next to that here. So you're not going to be sewing over your pin, you're going to be sewing next to it. So when you do that and sew it, your seam will come out perfectly, just like it did on this one. And here again, it's not the perfect way to do it, it's just the way that works for me. And that's what this is all about. So try both ways and see which works best for you. Okay, go ahead.
All right, now we've got this at the sewing machine. I'm gonna get this started here. Find my foot pedal because it takes a run on me sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna get up as close to that seam as I can without hitting that pin so that my corner doesn't move on me where I was trying to line up my corners. Okay. It's not too bad. Like I said, it's a little wonky. And did any of yours, were they a bit wonky too?
Yeah.
Okay. And
They pressed out fine.
yeah, they press out fine. Life doesn't end. And in the long run, one more. Okay. In the long run. Oh, that was interesting. Did you see that? If anything can happen, it'll happen to me. The head came right off of that pin.
Oh, the head came off of
Yeah.
the pin. Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, it's done. Life is good.
As long as your needle didn't hit it.
No, my needle didn't hit it. I'm pretty good. I've got my nose. You can probably tell my nose is clear down here in my sewing machine, so I can see what I'm doing. I need new glasses. All right. Is it going to make it, or do I have to tear it apart?
Place your bets now.
Yeah. All right, let's put it down here. Let's see. Okay, my middle seam, it's off a hair, but it's not bad. But that point, I'm happy with that point. This one, yeah, it's off a bit. But I'm not gonna, this is like block 25. At this point, it's good enough. If this would have been about block 3, I might have torn it apart and tried to scoot this down a hair. But I'm not gonna worry about it at this point. So I am going to go ahead and press this, and we will come back to you in a minute from there.
With clue, this is clue number 3.